In today's video we are supposed to delve into the worst torture methods in history. So I will be happy if you subscribe to channel and like the video before starting. The first method is called breaking wheel. This method was used in ancient Greece from the 500th to 1400th. Imagine a large wheel to which human bodies were attached using iron nails and began to crush all parts of their bodies with large hammers, to the point where only their pieces of flesh and bone remained. And they were left on those wheels for a few days, and there were cases where people's bodies were left on those wheels for 8 days or more. The other way of using the wheel was to wrap the human body around the wheels and push them onto the ground so that the person would lose their life from being hit by the ground and being crushed. And in the third method they would make a fire under the wheel so that the person's body would gradually burn and lose his life. And the last time this method was used dates back to 1841. Where humans stopped using this method by enacting human rights laws. The next torture was called the head crusher, which was used from the 5th to the 15th century. In this method there had been a device by which people's heads were gradually crushed. You may think that this method is much better than the previous torture, but did you know that eye popping out of the socket before they were completely crushed? And sometimes they would hit that machine with a hammer so that the sound of it slamming would play in the person's brain. And once its eye popping out of the socket, and its jaw was crushed, its brain flowed like water, because the inside of their heads was completely crushed. The next torture was skin peeling, which was used in 800 BC, and with a small knife they spent hours removing the skin of the body, leaving only the skin of the face after hours. You might think humans can't live without skin, but you know humans can live without skin for several days. But if they let them survive. And sometimes, after removing the skin from the entire body, they'd put it in a big pot and start pouring boiling water into it to the point that the flesh would cook and the man would lose his life. Sometimes they put a person in the sun for a few days before being tortured so that their skin could burn so that it could be peeled off more easily. In subsequent torture a skewer would also be heavily oiled. And they would slowly sink into the human body. And sometimes they'd do it from the butt, too. But in order not to lose their lives quickly, they also used other parts of the body. And it was plunged into the earth and pulled down by gravity and the weight of the individual body. And the procedure lasted up to several days. And the point is that in most of the torture, people witnessed it, and encouraged the person who was being tortured. Another method is called the death saw. The exact time of its use is not known, but it was likely to coincide with the invention of the saw in the 31st century. The way it worked was that I would open the other person's leg and hang it from the top of something, and two people would start cutting the other person's body in half. And since most of the blood has entered the head, then death would have been gradual as well. And the person who was being punished was going through terrible pain. The last torture we are going to introduce dates back to 554 BC in ancient Greece. And it was done using a bronze bull. So they would put the other person in it naked and light a fire under it so that the person would be cooked little by little. And pipes were put into the cow's mouth to make the sound of that person's moaning sound like a cow's voice, and the smoke from being cooked was coming out of the cow's nose, to make it extremely appealing to the people watching it. And according to the heat of the fire, that person would burn from 10 minutes to hours. In your opinion, what is the worst method of torture? I look forward to your comments in the comments section, and thank you for being with me until the end of the video.